Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dark World, and we're in the Nether, and found a hive here, Nether hive, which is kind of rare. Heck, there we go. Get out the scoop, scoop up the bees. So that's nice. So, still looking for another fortress. Not a whole lot to see here. I mean, I've collected quite a bit of cobalt and ardite and glowstone. But yeah, I'm gonna cut. I'll be back when I find another fortress. And it looks like we finally found one. So, take a look around. And we got some wither skeletons already. My jetpack is getting a little bit low, 8% left. So I gotta be a little bit careful. Yeah, fight each other. Or don't. And there went the wither. Alright, so nether wart. We gotta find some nether wart. It's going to be... It's a chest over there. Well, we gotta check that out. Horse armors. Another chest. More horse armor. And we're running an inventory room. Let's just throw a bunch of stuff in. I found some more of these princesses as well. Alright. Yeah, I think I'll take the chest. Why not? So, could be there another wart down here. Yes. And blaze. Ouch. Okay. Okay, let's grab some of this. Make our own farm back in the overworld. That'll be good. Do I get a blaze rod yet? No. We're gonna need more than more than just one blaze rod anyway. But looks like this might be... Ooh. This looks promising. Looks dangerous as well, though. Have to do this carefully. Oops. That's not the way to do it. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna wait back here until I heal up. Don't want to take any chances. There's another one up there, though. We can light that room up. And I brought this. This is a diamond dolly. It's a upgraded version of the regular dolly, which is just made like this, piece of wood. Pretty easy. This lets you move like Java barrels and chests around. The diamond dolly, though, will allow you to pick up and move spawners, but it only has 5 uses. It takes damage each time you use it with the spawner. So I'd like to grab that spawner up there and lug that back to the overworld. Not so good at dodging fire. I don't know if we're gonna be able to pull this off very easily. We might have to try to get just a blaze rod and then return to the overworld with it. I need at least one blaze rod. And none there. Getting lucky so far. Frame rate though. Oh, still no blaze rod. Can light this up more. Dang it. Ah, so unlucky with these blaze rods, I tell you what. Not cool. Oh boy. Yeah, my inventory's getting rather crowded. Alright, let's look at some life. There, I got a blaze rod. Some food. Oh, I bet it's going in there. Probably have like quite a few. Well, 4. Okay. Whoops. Light it up. Oh, jeez. No. Yeah, I'll come back to this. Let's set a waypoint. New. Blaze. I'm gonna make some fire resistance potions and then I'm gonna come back and try to grab that thing. These guys are just spawning way too much. Frame rate's too bad. So, grab some more nether ore. So, we got what we need. I'll cut and come back when we're back at the base. See you soon. Okay, so we're back, and jetpack got pretty low. 4% left. That's not so good. Set that in there to recharge. Got some of this gold horse armor and iron horse armor. Don't really have a big need for that. These we can smelt down in here, so we'll get quite a bit of metal out of them. As you can see, 1152. I'm not sure exactly how much that is, but it's be put to better use as ingots, I think. So we got 6 blaze rods, and what we're gonna do, make ourselves a brewing stand. Just goes like that, and there we go. Now I put potion in here, and I'm not seeing anything, which is a little odd. It's not showing up in any eye, but look at the uses for nether wart. You know, it shows that we can brew things. Fire resistance potion is what we're going to want. So it looks like, you know, we can brew it, but it's not showing up in any eye. So I don't know if it really works or not. So what I would like to do, not bad, get 8 blaze powder, and we'll use one of those, create some magma cream, and let's try this thing out and see what happens. We're going to need some bottles too, and I don't have any bottles yet, so do I have glass in here? Yeah. Bottles. Fill those with water. Where am I? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it looks like it's working. This will be good. This is sort of the low-end potions. These things, part of blood magic, these things are awesome. We're eventually going to want to get into those, but to do so, we're going to we needed a brewing stand anyway. So, because it's part of the here it is, this thing, the alchemic chemistry set. Takes a brewing stand. This is what lets you brew these bottles up. It has 8 uses per bottle, and you can recharge them easily. So once you make one of the potions, it's fairly trivial to keep it restocked, and so pretty nice. And there's lots of different kind of potion. There's a flight potion, which is pretty nice. Regeneration would be really good, and I'd like to do one of those. So there's our fire resistance. So we're ready to tackle those blazes next time we run into them. But we're not going to do that right now. So I'll set them here for safekeeping. Blaze rods, I think I'll stick in here. Blaze powder. Sulfur goes over here. Okay. Let's go look and see how much iron and gold we got out of that. 8 and 16, not bad. Alright, so yeah, we got nice selection of bees going on here. And I've been breeding them. Well, not breeding them, but just reproducing them. I've got the bloody in here. I stuck the blood up over here to see if maybe these bloody bees, as they're doing their thing, will, you know, produce blood in a nearby blood altar, perhaps, or put it into your blood network. 3880, which is what it was before, a long time ago. So it's not producing any blood of any kind for us. As far as I can tell, these things don't do anything. I made a beealizer. So I had this one with seed oil at the bottom. I made another carpenter which uses water, because some of the recipes use water. And this is the recipe that's used to, it's not shown here, but makes a beealizer. And so I put that in there, made a beealizer. And what this thing can do, you put the honey drops in up there, and you can have up to a stack of those, like so. And if we grab, say, some bloody drones, let's just do one. So it says unknown genome, right? And here it says supply bee and provide honey, or honeydew as a pacifier. That's what this is. And this gives you general in this slot, environment, produce, and evolution down here. So stick it in there, it moves down, and we have some traits for this bee. So it's a bloody species. It's purebred, because purebred means that this column matches this column. Because every trait, is what these are, say territory, it has two possible traits. This goes to genetics. This is real life genetics. There's like a pair of each gene and so forth. And so if the pairs match, then you've got, you know, purebred. If they're different, then it's not pure anymore. And you'll see that later. But all the ones you find naturally will be purebred like this. Effect, some of the bees have effects. This has no effect, so that's one thing that, like, there's a bee that will provide regeneration, and that has the explorer effect, I think it's called, and that will go there. So this doesn't seem to have anything there. Nothing spectacular there. Can only produce honeycomb, that's it. No specialties. So, and you can't create any new mutations from it, and nothing interesting there. So yeah, and I've been breeding this, running this thing, and nothing, not producing any blood. I mean, it's a bloody bee. You'd think it would have some kind of effect on your blood, your essence there, your LP. And I got this orb in here. It should be sucking up every kind of blood that appears in there and put it into my network, but my network's not going out. So I got no clue. These bloody bees, maybe it's something that he's got planned or something, but currently it's not implemented. That's my only guess, so no idea. It's just like that transcendent orb or whatever. He can't seem to make it, so I think it's probably a work in progress, and it's in the game, but it doesn't really do anything, so I'll probably do something about that. And I set up some other hives here. So the idea is these will produce, these are drone producers. These produce more and more drones. So I got a bunch of sources drones, quite a bit of those. I had 7 here, so that I was starting to produce. I've for forestry and wintry, and this thing was ignoble, but it produced a whole stack of drones from it, so it lasts quite a while apparently. Yeah, I've even got some extras here. Once you get a whole stack of these drones, I mean, you don't need any more of a specific type. When they stack, you know that they match. And usually if they're purebred, it's when they're going to stack. If you get mixed, they tend to not, just because of the nature of mixed, when you mix, or when you breed mixed princess and a mixed drone, you're going to get a lot of mixed results from it, so they're not really going to stack. And so it's an easy way to tell if they're, even though you don't know what the genome is, when they start stacking, more than likely they're purebred by that point. And I'll get into that more later, but I don't want to confuse you guys right now. These, I mean, like when I hit almost a whole stack of this or whatever, then, or I had a stack, then I could take the bee out, the queen out of here, stick it in here. These don't have any automation on them, like these ones back here do. So when they die off, they'll sit here, and then I can pull them out, because I don't want them to keep breeding. I want to stop them from breeding. That's what these 2 apiaries are for. I can just pull them out and put them here. But if we're gonna mix, like crossbreed 2 species, then we'll probably also want to use this. You don't want to have automation going with that usually, because you want to see what's going on, so you can help guide their evolution. And I'll show you what I mean by that. What we'll do is grab Meadows, grab Ignoble, what the heck. So we stick it in here. We see that it's Meadows, purebred. It's got Meadows and Meadows. And this drone is forest and forest. And they have some different characteristics if we look. Like fertility, this has only 2 offspring, 2 drones. You always get a princess back, but this refers to the number of drones you're going to get. So you get 2 drones with this particular species of Meadows. That's the default for Meadows. Forest, however, has 3. What else we see? That's about the only difference we see in this point. If we go down to the next one, yeah, we exactly the same on those as well. Same outputs. So there's not a lot of room for variability. But if we take the species, that's going to be an easy one to see for an example. If we breed these 2, right, what you have is, this is the mother. It's going to pass on one of these genes or one of these genes, and it's random which one it'll take. It'll take either this one or this one, the active or the inactive. One or the other for each one of these, it's going to pass on to the child. And the same goes true for the father here. It's going to pass on either one from this column or one from this column. And so you get 1 gene from the mother, 1 from the father, and together they make the new pair. And so your offspring are going to have 2 pairs again. 1 came from the father, 1 came from the mother. So what we know is that this is the first generation, right? These are going to be the parents. The children will be the second generation. And what we're going to find with the second generation is that they are all going to be a mix. They're going to be half meadow and half forest. Whether they're active or inactive, we don't know. It's going to be one or the other. But they're going to have one of each trait. They're going to be both meadow and both forest. One of each for every single child. Because that has to work out that right. It has to work out that way. Now there is one exception, and that's if it mutates. And it can mutate into the common. So if we look at how commons are produced. So here's a forest, a marshy. Basically the common, if you get any of the primal ones, the basics, the ones you start from, and you mix 2 of those together, then there's a chance for a common. That's the only way you can common. So anything you see on this side, these are all starter ones. So forest, that's in forestry. Marshy, mystical, that's part of magic bees. I think marshy is in like vanilla forestry. Rocky is part of extra bees. Sorceress is magic bees. So they add a whole bunch of new types. You don't have that many with forestry. You know, like the forest, the meadows, the desert, um, jungle, tropical, I forget what it's called, and the modest bees, which are from the desert. I think those are your 5 main ones from there. But when you start adding the other add-ons, you get a whole lot more different types. And if we look around, eventually we'll find a page. There's 33 different pages here. But one's meadow, one's forest, and it comes out with the common. And they're all 15% chance. So what that means is, when it comes time to pass on the genes, the mother will select one or the other, but there's a 15% chance that will go away and will be replaced with a common. And the same goes with the father. So you actually have like a 30% chance that you're going to have common in one of the 2 columns. The chance of getting both common in both columns, then that's 15 times 15, I think, which is about 2.2% or something like that. So not very high probability that you get that. Most likely we're going to find just a mix of the 2. In apiaries, they can mutate like that. There's something called a bee house. It's even easier, and you can start with those. H-O-U. Yeah, the bee house. It's just a comb, some wood, and slabs. If you want to make the apiary, then yeah, you need the seed oil and everything. So this is actually a little more advanced version. And you might want to start with the bee house. The only difference between the bee house and the apiary is these slots here. You don't have them in the bee house. You can't put any frames in there. It's also, the bees live a lot longer, so it's a lot slower process before they die off. But one advantage that the bee house has is that you won't get any mutations, so you'll never get commons out of there. Which can be helpful if you want to keep it, one of the 2 species that you're working with and you don't want it to mutate, then that can be useful. So, yeah. But here, we're just gonna let them go. Maybe we'll get mutation, maybe not. We got a little bit of time. So, when you're breeding bees, one of the things you want to think about is what your goal is. So our goal in this case, with not these here, we're going to try to get to the common. We want to get to the common species. And that's generally what you're aiming for most of the time, is trying to get to a specific species. But you might not. You might have some other plan in mind. Like we had the forest. The forest species had 3 times fertility, and maybe we want a meadows with 3 times fertility. So we could mate these, and hopefully that 3 times fertility will get passed on to a meadows, and then you just try to get the species back to meadows while hanging on to the fertility. And that's kind of the basics of breeding. And it happens in real life too. You have like bigger chickens. You take the biggest chickens and you breed those together, and as you keep doing that over and over, you tend to get bigger and bigger and bigger chickens, right? And corn is a good example of that. The corn that we have today is not what it used to be in the wild, but they've selectively, breeded it to try to make them bigger and bigger and bigger, and so we got the corn that we have today because of that. But that wasn't naturally occurring, so. And it looks like stars are coming out, and yeah. So these guys only work at night, but that's one of the traits as well. Pull this guy out for a sec and look at him. On the second page, nocturnal, which means they'll work at night as well. And this is no. And there's not too many species that have it, but that might be a trait you want to try to breed into it. in which case, you know, what I'm going to show you is how to get just a species right now, but this could work for any of the traits that you want to work. So if you want the, like the knight, then you look for what you want with that. It'll make more sense when I show you how this is done with the species. Trying to explain it without actually showing you is a little bit tricky, so. And this is taking a little bit of time to finish, so I'm just going to cut. When this is done, then I'll come back. Okay, we're back, and we have our offspring. Now, the queen was meadows, and so that's why we have 2 offspring instead of 3. You'll notice that the queen, or the princess that we got, is forest this time, but it should not be a pure one. And sure enough, it's forest meadows. And we're going to mix with this trait as well. Forest meadows 2 and 3. Meadows forest 2 and 3. So every single one of these is mixed now. Yeah, let me just continue. Alright, so now we have forest meadows. So if we breed this one with one of these, say let's take these, right? They both look like forest, but they're actually a mix, and we know that. So here's the mother. She's gonna pass on either forest or meadows. 50-50 chance of getting one or the other. So the offspring, first trait will either be forest or meadows, and then same thing with the father. Forest or meadows. So for the offspring, there's 4 possibilities, right? It could be forest and forest, because it might have been that the forest trait was passed on by both the mother and the father. It could be meadows from both the mother and the father, so it might be a meadows. Now we got a purebred again with those 2. Or it could be a forest from the father and a meadows from the mother, or a meadows from the mother or the father and a forest from the father. And so we have a 25% chance of getting a pure forest. We've got a 25% chance of getting a pure meadows, and we've got a 50% chance of getting a mix again, because it could be forest meadows or meadows forest from the mother and the father respectively. So let's stick these 2 in, and we know what we should get out now, because we understand how this genetics works, right? So we'll see what the offspring is. Actually, if we look at this, we can see the active trait is 2. So we're going to have 2 offspring again from this. Alright, and I'll cut when this dies off again. Okay, and here we have the third generation, sorry. 2 offspring. And let's see what we got this time. Forest. So we had a 25% chance of getting this, and that's what we got. These, 50% chance, so we got 2 and 3, which is different. You know, we're purebred up here with the species forest, but the fertility is different, so this is technically not really a purebred yet. These have to match. Everything has to match. The 2 columns. And they don't. Everything else matches except for that. But this is the one thing that doesn't match. But we've got what we're aiming for getting, if we want to make it like pure forest again. We've kind of done that. Let's look at these other ones. We still haven't got the common at all. This one's a mix here as well. Meadows common. Okay, so here we've got meadows and common. Got 2-2. There's a 25% chance of this. So yeah, we have only 1 common. We have 2 drones to choose from, but we only have the 1 princess, so we're kind of stuck with the 1 princess. And it's forest. This one, meadows common. So if we breed these 2 together, we know that the mother here is going to contribute forest, right? But the father can either pass meadows or common. So the offspring will either be a forest meadows or a forest common, or because we have a forest and a meadow, this forest meadow combination could turn into a common as well. So we have, well, we have a 100% chance of getting forest in there, minus the 15% chance if it turns into a common. 25% chance that we'll have a common in one of the two columns. So it's not too likely we're going to keep the common, but it's worth a try. This one's meadows forest. So here's what we'll do. We'll do these two, and most likely the common's going to go away because there's only like a 25% chance, but there's a 15% chance with this. So 25 and 15 gives you, well, see, I don't know if it's probability. I don't remember how probability works exactly. You could add them up together, and so you get the 15 and 25 to get 40%. Not sure, but anyway, the odds are against us, so we're probably going to lose the common, but we'll see what happens. And this will be the 4th generation. It wasn't such a good example, really. Hopefully we'll get a better example. I'll cut, and when this is done with its life cycle, I'll come back. Okay, and get some interesting results. We did get a comment out of this. While I was waiting, since I was bored, bored waiting for this thing, I made this up. This is called pundit squares, and this top represents, say, the mother. Mother in this case that we used was pure forest, right? Forest here for both trades. The father is here. There's a meadows and a common. This is actually a stone bee, but a rocky bee. But we'll pretend that's a common. Common actually looks a little bit different. But what this shows you is, I mean, it could be one of these 4 squares, because it takes one, either this trait or this trait. And it takes either this trait or this trait. So you could end up in one of these 4 squares. And you don't know which one, but you got a 25% chance of getting in each one of these. So, with, let's say, you know, we end up in this square. So we got this trait from the mother, this trait from the father. So we'd have a mix of forest and meadows. Same thing here though, right? Because this is forest also, and this is also a meadow, so you get a forest meadows. And there's a 15% chance that these could turn into common. So you get a 15% chance here, 15% chance here. So if you land on this one, 15% chance you get a common. If you landed here, then there's a 15% chance you'd have got a common. If you land here, you're guaranteed to have a common, because this is common, so you have common here and common here. And you'd have you'd have a hybrid of forest and common. So this common we see, it might have been from these two, it might have been from here. We don't exactly know where it came from. Here we have meadows, so we know that this trait got passed on for this bee. So the father gave meadows to this one. Forest, well, this doesn't have forest, so it was the mother's trait. It came here and it didn't mutate. Could be a common, we don't know. So let's take a look and see what we got exactly. Forest common. So we have common here, forest. Most likely, well, yeah, I think it would have to be here, right? Let me think about this for a sec. This is a forest common, right? Forest common. If we landed here with meadows and forest, we might have kept the forest, but the meadows mutated into common. So it's possible that we got the 50% chance up here, or here, or here or here. So it could have been either one. We can't really tell which one of these that the Forest Princess came from. Let's check out the Meadows one. Meadows Forest. Alright. No, it came from here. It had to be one of these two squares. Because if it came from the common, we have common and forest. But since we got the meadows in there, ooh, and it's stacked with that one actually. Yeah, meadows forest hybrid. This one's forest common. What about this one? That's the interesting one. So common forest. So there's the forest, common. It came from one of these two bottom squares. Right? Alright, stop with the lag. So, let me take this out for a sec. Put this in here. This is what we had in the previous generation. I think it helps to visualize this a little bit. So I'm setting it up like this. Alright, so we had a mix from both, right? And so here, we could have got a mix of the two. Here we've got a pure meadows. Here, pure forest. That's what we got for the mother, was a pure forest, right? Or it could be forest. So you can see that we have 25% chance here of a mix, 25% chance here of a mix. That's how we get to 50% of having a mix of the two traits. 25% and 25%. Those are the pures. So, what do we got this time around? We've got the queen is forest and common. So, forest. Common. We'll use this. And let's use the common drone. So we have common and forest. Common. And stop that. Forest. So we could get common and common. We could get a pure common here. 25% chance of that. Here we could get the common forest. Could get a pure forest. 25% chance of that. Or again a mix. So we have a 25% chance of getting a pure common. So it's going to be common and common in both traits. 25% chance of that. Here we could have a mix of forest and common. Here we could have a mix of forest and common. So we got a 50% chance of getting that mixed. So altogether we have a 75% chance of keeping the common and not losing it. But we got a 25% chance of getting a pure forest out of it. So using these two would be a good idea, because you got a 75% chance. Since our goal here is to get the common, we want to go with the highest probabilities, and so 75%. So we want to use the princess that has forest and common, which is that one, right? Forest and common. And then we wanted the common forest. Is it that one? Common forest. Because we got our best chance of getting commons out of that. Now we got a 75% chance for the princess to be common in one of the two traits, 25% chance that she'll be common in both, and with the offspring, how many offspring are we going to get this time? 2. And the 2 offspring could be well, there's a 75% chance for each of those to be common. 25% chance would be a pure common. So we're getting a little bit closer, as you can see, to getting a pure commons. And so this is why you want to build a beealizer. You don't want to just throw drones in there and princesses and mix them up and just keep breeding them, because you can only see one of them. This one's unknown. It says forest. But is it pure forest? You know, this one looks like a meadows. And had we not scanned it, this one would look like meadows, this one looked like meadows, but it's actually meadows forest. And they're actually different, they won't stack. So something different about them. Probably the fertility rate. And this one we don't know. Could it be? It's a forest. Okay, so this is a pure one, but we don't know unless we scan it. So, and you need honey drop every time you scan it, so you're going to want to, you know, breed them for a while to try to get honeycombs out of this thing. Here. You can throw frames in there. This is what we're doing now with these. We get these impregnated sticks. Takes a lot of wood. Stick it in here, and I got a recipe for the frames. Go like that. We shift click, and we get a whole ton of frames. These things do not stack. But what I do for that is I just have a barrel. Double click and get them all in there. Pull up 3 at a time. Go to whichever hives you want. You can shift click them in. And now this will increase the productivity of these bees, and they'll produce a lot more honeycomb. And with a lot more honeycomb, you don't have to wait as long to get the honeycomb you need, and you put it in there, and you'll get beeswax every time and honey drop every time. I think. It might not be 100%. Let's take a look. 90% chance of a honey drop. But you get beeswax every time. But that's pretty good. I mean, you get a lot of honey drops, which you'll need for the beealyzer here when you're trying to breed them. So, off it goes, and yeah, we'll see what the results are. I'll cut, and we'll see what the results are. Be back in a minute. Alright, we got common princess, common drone, and a forest drone. Let's see what they really are, though. Common. Alright, so we had 25% chance for that, and we got it. That one's pure. And also the fertility is pure, turned into 2 and 2. Common forest, so this one's not pure yet. This one's certainly not pure yet. This is a forest. So there's a 25% chance for this, right? So forest came to this one. The pure common was here and here. And then we have a mix. We have 50% chance of that, and that's what this was a mix. So, at this point, if we were to choose the wrong one, let's say we chose this forest drone, right? We have a common and a forest. We know what's going to happen. All the offspring are going to be a mix of both common and forest. So we're not going to get a pure common from that. These two, on the other hand, we got a pretty good odds. We got like 50% chance of getting common. Let's pretend this was common up here. Like so. So common. So all of these are going to have at least one trait that's going to be common, right? Because the mother is common. So you have at least common in one trait. The other trait could be from the father, and we'll get pures. So we got a 50% chance of getting pures, which is good. Where's the father? Here. And forest is the other one. So this is right. And so we got a 50% chance of getting pure common, 50% chance of getting a common forest hybrid, just like the father is. So, hopefully this is making sense. So, you can see our odds are now, I mean, we've got a 50% chance of getting commons for all of them, whereas we had 25% chance on the previous generation, right? And we got lucky, and we got the princess turned out to be common, but we weren't so lucky with the drones. This one will probably get pure commons. It's a lot more likely, but still only 50% chance, so we'll see what happens. Rest for the night, and actually I'll just cut, and when they're done I'll show you the results. Okay, here we are again, and this looks a lot like last time, but we know that we have better chances this time. Is this pure? This is a pure common. How about this one? Ooh, we got cultivated now. So, if we look at common, if you take a common and you take one of your base primal ones, common, which one did we have? There's not as many this time, so where's she? There's a forest. Here it is. Forest and common can give you a cultivated. We have a 12% chance of that happening. So we had a mutation occur here, common with the forest. So one of these two slots hit that 12% chance and turn into a cultivated for this, and the common for the other trait. So that's interesting. Now what do we have here? Forest common. So we have common represented a lot more now in all these. They all have common at least once, and we knew that's kind of what would happen. There was no way that we couldn't have at least one of the columns be common, right? The only other option would have been forest, but if it's going to be forest, okay, you get forest from the father here, but where did the forest come from with the mother? It would have been common. So common forest is like the only possible hybrid we could have gotten, or the common cultivated if it mutated. So this is interesting. If we want to have common, we'll probably save this common cultivated, and we'll try these. There's a forest common, and this is a common, which is exactly what we have up here, right? Pure common, princess, and a forest common, father. And this is, yeah, this is exactly the same as we had last generation. What we're going to do though, we'll try something a little bit different. If we take some frames, there's a special kind of frame you can make, like this, called a soul frame. And what this does is it increases the odds, or the percent chance of the mutation occurring. So instead of 12% chance, you're going to have a higher percent chance. I don't know exactly how much it modifies it, but we should see quite a bit more of the diligent showing up, or the cultivated, I mean. We only had one cultivated show up here. There's only 12% chance, right? So what are we going to get this time? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'll be back. Okay. This time the princess has a forest in it. These appear to be just commons. We get more mutations than we expected. Forest common. Nothing unexpected there. Over here we have common. Common. So common is a lot more common this time. No pun intended. These didn't stack though, so is there a difference? Ah, here we have slower, slowest, slower. So we get this new flower type trait that's changing around on us. This one is slowest, slower. Interesting. Alright, so we'll have to run this again. We have two pure commons, but we only have a forest common cultivated. So in our goal to get commons, we'll use one of these common drones, doesn't matter which one, and the forest common. And hopefully we get a princess that's common. If we have a princess that's common, we have this one that's common already. So we're good to go at that point. So we'll see what happens. I'll be back shortly. Okay, we're back. And we got common and forest, so nothing. Alright, good. We got the common, this one's common, this one's common. scanned that, but I haven't scanned this yet. So let's do that. Because you can get some aspects off these as well. Once you scan a drone and a princess, then that's it. But the queen is also unique. So yeah, you can only scan one of each of all these things. Now we know what this queen's like, which is the same as this queen. They're all the same, so they all act as one object. Anyway, so we have common and common. Let's see what these are, just for the sake of completion. So here we got a common cultivated again, just like this one. And this is the forest cultivated instead of a forest common, so that's interesting. So now we can probably take these out. These are kind of useless. And we can put this in here, this in here, and these, since it's common and common, now if we had common across the top and common across the bottom as well, like so, all four of these squares are going to be common, right? So we got a 100% chance of getting common. So this is why having hostile environment. Yeah, this is a cold environment. If I get rid of this window, there we go. It's cold normal, so they cannot tolerate cold apparently. And if we take a look at it in a second, we can see, yeah, they want normal, humidity, normal climate. So, and there's no temperature tolerance. Oops, didn't mean to drop you. So we're gonna have to stick them in one of these two. We're just about done with these as well. I think it's enough meadows for now. Put this in here, and this should do better in here. And okay, maybe we'll leave the bloody here, even though I don't know what use it is. We don't need this in here right now, so we can put the meadow in here, let it finish out its life cycle so we can get the princess back and drone. They'll all be meadows, of course. And so this, now we can put it back in the automated. We don't want to automate these because, you know, you're stuck with the princess no matter what, of course, because you only get one of those back, but you can get, you know, more than one drone. And if you're trying to get to like common, for example, it makes a big difference which of the drones you pick. You want to look at them and figure out which one's going to have the highest probability. So you can stack the odds in your favor. It'll save you a lot of time trying to get these, to get the species that you want or the specific trait you want. We were doing this for the common trait, trying to get the common trait in both sides. But you could do it with fertility, for example. The rocky drones, or the rocky, well, the princesses and drones, they only have a 1 fertility, which means they get 1 drone. 1 princess, 1 drone. Now, it's really hard to produce extra drones when you're only getting 1 drone every time. You get 1 princess, 1 drone, it dies off, you get 1 princess, 1 drone, so you never get any extras. Whereas if you were to combine it with a forest, for example, which has 3 fertility, you could try to get a rocky line that has 3 fertility, and then you can get extra rocky drones that way. And so that's a good example of how you'd want to try to get something else other than the species set up that way. Now, what if you don't have very many, like we have this common princess, right? What if we want another common princess? What you could do, once you have a large amount of these drones, if you have like a whole stack of drones in here, you can take a princess, like a rocky princess, throw it in there, right? The princess is always going to get recycled back into here, But since this is already full, if it's not exactly the same, it's not a pure bed, it's not going to go back in here. It's not going to fit because it won't stack with a different type. So they'll go into there, and the princess comes in, it breeds with the purebred again, and you've always got a 50% chance of keeping whatever's down here in the drones, right? And so over time, the princess will start to drift more and more toward whatever the drones are, and eventually it'll become a common princess. And it varies. It might take like 8 generations or so, but since you can automate it like this, it can go pretty quick. So these are the way I've got these automated. These would be hive or apiaries that produce drones. That's one function of it, but it can also migrate princess to whatever type you want. And so that's the other option. And then these drones are just for doing breeding, trying to crossbreed, get certain traits, trying to get new species as well. And so these are your basic two kind of, I mean, they're the same apiary, but the way you use them, the way you set them up, they have two different functions. And so I'll refer to these as like, you know, my reproducing ones or whatever, and these are my breeding ones. And it's the same apiary, but the difference is how you're using them. So we differentiate them by the function they're performing. Okay, so this one's done. And these are pure, because that's all they had in them to begin with. Those will stack with those. These are hybrids. You want to keep your pures separated from your hybrids, most likely. This isn't the best way to store them, but we don't have that many right now, so it'll do for now. And we can get this ready for mutating some more if we want. So the next step along the line would be trying to do something with the cultivateds. Try to get a cultivated line going. So this is common. We go here, this is an NEI, it shows you what happens. So you can get to cultivated. We use cultivated. We see that cultivated in rural gives you farmed. There's all kinds of different kinds of bees in here. And a lot of times it's trying to figure out what you're trying to get to. Common, cultivated will give you noble, which is one of the things you want. But there's also diligent. Common and cultivated can also give you diligent. And the diligent line and the cultivated, not cultivated, noble line. It was noble, right? Noble, yeah. Once you start down these lines, you're eventually going to get up to the imperial here, which is what you want. The imperial, and the other one's the industrious. Once you get those two, things are going to get a lot easier because you can start building alvearies, and there's a lot more options with breeding and so forth. So the hard part is just getting to those two, the noble and the industrious. And this is all going the vanilla forestry route. When you have some extra mods involved, it can simplify things a lot. There's extra bees, which, and well, there's also genetics. The genetics mod, which is made by the same guy that makes extra bees. It's his name's Benny, and this used to be part of extra bees, but now it's been separated out into its own mod, and it provides these machines which can help a lot. Unfortunately, I tested a little bit with this in this new version. There's 3 versions of these. You notice this one's powered by MJ, RF, and EU. All right, so we probably want the RF version, right? So here's the recipe, right? This was for MJ. You'd use a gear. This one's also MJ though. This should be RF probably because it's using thermal expansion red reception coil. And this one should be EU, I'd imagine, since it's part of industrial craft. And I tried crafting this one. I made like a test world, and I, just got stuff in. I assembled it, and sure enough, it's MJ powered. The problem with MJ powered is we don't really have anything that produces MJ anymore. MJ stands for Minecraft Joules, which is what Buildcraft used. And if you look at like the pipes as part of Buildcraft, you notice it says RF per tick, right? And there's these engines. So like the Stirling engine, combustion engine. These, you know, it says Buildcraft, BC Energy. That's part of Buildcraft as well. These only produce RF now. So you really don't have anything that will produce MJ, and yet the only thing you can make is MJ version of those genetics machines. So that's not really an option right now until you can get these bugs fixed in this. So it's kind of too bad. There's one machine in particular I'd really like to have and be able to use. Genetics, and that is the acclimatizer here. This is a really useful machine. What you can do with it is adjust the tolerances of your bees over time. Make them be able to tolerate, you know, if it needs cold, for example. Or let's say we had this cold here, right? This is a cold biome one. If we could adjust the tolerance, so even though it needs a normal biome, but if we adjust the tolerance of this up and down one, then it could tolerate the cold. Even though it needs normal, it can also go with cold because it's one down from it. And you can adjust, in the past you could adjust them to plus or minus 5 in each direction. Well, the plus and minus means in both directions, so once you have plus or minus 5 on it, basically it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to be able to handle any biome, period. So that's kind of a handy thing to, and but yeah, we can't really make that. So we got to stay away from this. So what we're going to do, there's another mod in here called Gendistry, and this actually works. At least I'm pretty sure it worked in Agrarian Skies, and I don't think it's really changed much since then. We'll find out, but this is what we're going to do. This is going to make life a lot simpler. We're not going to have to go through this process of trying to breed and get the traits that we want and select the children that we want and so forth. We can't really jump right into it though. If we look at like this, for example, pulsating chipset. So we're going to have to get into the assembly table, lasers, and be able to produce all this before we can get into this really. So sometime soon we're going to do that. We're going to set up the assembly table and some lasers, and then we'll start building some of these machines, and then we can start doing that. I don't know exactly when we'll get into it, but it'll be kind of sometime soon, because it's going to make getting what we want a lot easier, and you'll see what I mean once we get there. Anyway, this episode is pretty long now, I think, so we're going to call it here. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and leave a like, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.